What's going on, Junkie Nation? Gorgeous Georgian goes back with another superstar in the world of combat sports. Today we get to talk to Austin Trout. Of course, you all know him from the world of boxing, but he's been doing his thing at BKFC these last few years. He's got a big fight coming up against Luis Palomino, and that takes place at BKFC 57. It's right around the corner, February 2nd, less than a month. How you doing, Austin?
I'm doing fantastic, man. Thank y'all. Thank you guys for having me.
All right. Well, thank you for doing this. Looks like you're at a car wash or something. What's going on at the top there?
It's the sky here in Houston. I don't know what's going on with the clouds. It's weird, huh?
Mm-hmm.
We can get into that conspiracy, but the clouds is just looking real funky right now.
Big time. All right. All right. So Austin Trout, we were talking about this, and I felt like it was important to clarify here on the interview.
Yeah.
Austin, I was going to ask you, when I look at Tapology, which kind of tells us about the fights that are coming up, and also the BKFC website, it says welterweight bout, but you're saying there's no doubt that Austin, no doubt Trout will fight for the title, right?
Absolutely. So from my understanding, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. From my understanding, and it's not even just my understanding, contractually, it's for a title shot. Now, I remember when they first announced it, it just said welterweight, and I had an issue because, like you said, normally it says title shot. Trying to make a long story, just not that long, I guess I should say. Palomino was stripped of his belt, even though he never lost it, but due to him not defending it, I guess, even though he fought, he did anyway. But they gave it back, and so they made the fight, and they told me it's for a title. They announced it not for a title. I raised my issue. They said, "Oh, it's for a title. Don't worry. Contract says it's for a title. As far as I'm concerned, it's for a title."
Okay, well then that clears things up. I mean, especially if you saw it in writing, and I think the fight would make so much less sense for it not to be for a strap, being that he's probably arguably the greatest bare-knuckle fighter in that company's history. He's 8-0. He's held 2 titles, and then of course
9-0. I think that's 9-0.
Oh, is it 9-0? Okay, my bad.
I believe so. But you're right, and not to mention, why fight the pound for pound best champion, who's a 2-weight champion, and not for a belt? That means I'd have to fight him again for the belt, which makes no sense. We can rematch, but make it for the title.
Mm-hmm. How do you size Luis up? I know that when you first came over, you had a little swag to you. We would ask you questions about your opponents. You would never disrespect them, but you always had this look like, I got something for him, and you backed it up. You definitely backed it up. But this guy has been a title holder.
Yeah, look, Palomino, when somebody asked me who would be on my Mount Rushmore at BKFC, and the 4 I had was Juggernaut, Christine Ferreira, John Dodson, and of course Luis Palomino. You got to give the man his flowers.
Damn, what about Mike Perry?
What Mike Perry's soon. You know what I mean?
Okay.
He hasn't done more than Juggernaut or Palomino in the BKFC, respectfully.
Yeah.
I don't think.
But done more than Dodson though. No.
Yes, yeah, true. You're right. Yeah, you're right on that one. That's
New Mexico. Trying to give
that's the New Mexico love.
I see that. All right.
That's the New Mexico love. But with that said, I feel like styles make fights. This BKFC brings another element of styles to the game, and I feel like I contain a few different tools in my style that will be able to neutralize his footwork when he's on the outside and neutralize that inside game when he's on the inside. And like we're not taking him lightly. I may not have been in the best shape when fighting Diego, but I'm going to be in damn good shape fighting Palomino.
Where does bare knuckle stand for you now? It again, we haven't talked to you in a while, but at first it almost looked like something. I don't want to sound stupid, but kind of like the side piece, something. We'll pretend we're back in college, right? But now, like, you're here, man. Now you're fighting for a strap. Has it kind of matched boxing for as far as like your quest for combat?
Yeah, yes, absolutely. It absolutely feels that yearning I need to hit and get hit. One, well, maybe not the get hit part, but more the hit. But also, they take me serious, and you know, not saying that boxing didn't, and I'm not saying I'm giving up on boxing because I still am ranked, you know, high in some of these classes, but I'm about to be a 2-sport champion. And bare knuckle wants to make that happen now, not make me wait, you know, 6 months to fight Charlo, which will end up taking a year. And then they'll do things like say you can't fight or you lose your ranking. And it's just all the hoops that you have to jump through to get a meaningful fight. Um, with bare knuckle, it feels really good not having to do that. And not to say that you don't have to, you know, put in work or go through some things with the bare knuckle, but it's just, it's not so much politics. It's not as many hoops. You know what I mean?
Austin, can you talk a little bit about when this all came about, right? There
Mm-hmm.
were a lot of MMA guys. They started bringing in some boxing guys, and some of the boxing guys didn't fare as well. And I was kind of a cheerleader in the sense that I was saying, I feel like they just didn't have the right game plan yet. But I always said a really good boxer can actually do very well in this. You came along and it's like you had the right recipe from the get-go because you did a lot of those things that we all felt boxers could do in bare knuckle that a lot of people said, no, bare knuckle's just too much this. You can't do that. You did it. Okay. You did it against Diego Sanchez. And I want to know, even after having a good performance like that, and I thought Diego actually showed up. I thought he did a pretty good job for what I was expecting him to be a little bit slower. He actually fought pretty well, but
Yeah,
you just had that right recipe. Can you maybe talk about just, you know, having a great performance, but were there things that you picked up that you can even apply here to this next fight?
Yes, and so good. Thank you for that question. That was a good question because that was my first bare knuckle fight, and even before I was able to get into that square circle, I knew that there was going to be adjustments needed to make, and up until I got in there, um, it was all just hypothetically speaking, you know. Once I got in there, I was happy that I was prepared for what I was prepared for, but then there were some things that I wasn't necessarily prepared for. Um, and like one of the things is letting your hands go without necessarily turning on all shots. You know, my hands were real sore the next day, and I didn't condition my hands quite enough as I should have, which is what I'm gonna take with me to this next fight. My hands are, you know, a little bit more conditioned. I have a little bit more better idea on how I need to throw my punches and where I need to land them. You know, with Diego, I was hitting him in the forehead, back of the head, the top of the head. You know, so precision and timing has gotten a lot better. Even though I've only had one fight, I took a whole bunch of experience with me, and just wait till I get to Palomino's stage 9-0. You know what I mean? I feel like I will be unstoppable. Like, don't let me become an OG in this over here.
Mm-hmm. I want to see if you can enlighten us on a couple things. Some things that we never hear people talk about when we interview for BKFC. The jab, it's like they just feel like you just can't do it in BKFC. You did it. The body work, and your foot movement. Another thing that people have to remember is a square versus a ring is just different. You know, like how were you able to grasp all that? And can you maybe explain blending all those other arts as well?
Just so the jab, and you're right. I don't understand why, and I'm glad they don't, and I hope they don't start using the jab more. Even in my boxing career, I would jab you to death, but what the jab does is it gives you distance. In the bare knuckle, the right distance, the perfect distance between you and that punch makes all the difference in between if you're cut or if you're knocked out. So implementing the jab was key for me, and like you said, the footwork, that half step back is just a great tool in keeping that distance. So if you can hit him with a jab, take a half step back, you're back in a safe zone where you can make your next plan, react better, things of that nature. And I know Luis, depending on which Luis shows up or what he's trying to implement at the moment, he tries to cut that distance real close and make it a real close fight. He's been really good at keeping his distance. You know, he'll be outside, out of range, and then he'll be inside in his range and right back outside. So my footwork and my jab is going to have to disrupt all that. It's going to stop that inside jump in, and it's going to establish my distance when he tries to jump out. And really, there's nothing he's going to be able to do about it if I do it correctly.
Do you feel like, I know you kind of talked a little bit about boxing, but if we lay out 2024, this fight's going to happen pretty early. Do you feel like you will have another boxing match sometime this year, or is kind of like everything set on BKFC and moving up in that world as well?
After getting this title, you know, and again, I'm not saying I'm not gonna be done with boxing. If the right opportunity comes, yeah, absolutely, we're gonna take it. But you know, my focus will be more so on the BKFC. I'm the champion. I gotta represent. Feel me? There's a duty that champions, I feel, they have, and to the sport that they're the champion of. So I'm going to fulfill that duty, and I know a lot of that. One of those things is taking on the mandatory or the next in line, however you want to look at it. Because I know I jumped the line to get this belt. So I will give whoever is next, unless they're gonna give me that payday. That's sorry, buddy. But you know, we're gonna do what's right.
I want to lean on your boxing mind for a second because, you know, you go back a couple of years, George and I, we talk about boxing when there's a big matchup, but now it involves a lot of guys in our world in mixed martial arts. Francis Ngannou had a pretty decent showing against Tyson Fury, and now he's got Anthony Joshua. Can you maybe break down for us, like, there are so many ways to look at this, right? Like, George and I are X's and O's guys, and we've always kept it real. We're MMA junkie, but boxing is a different world, guys. And you could be a good striker in MMA. Doesn't mean you're going to be good in boxing. But Francis held his own. He did well. Some people are going to say that was a bad night for Fury, and maybe I can agree with that to a certain extent, but I think Francis actually did very well. Now it's Anthony Joshua, and Anthony Joshua cannot say he caught me by surprise. Because we all know what Francis Ngannou can do now. What do you think that fight's going to look like here?
I'm sorry, I just saw this lady fall. If she can't get up, I'm gonna go help her.
Okay.
She's up.
Yeah, we understand.
Yeah.
Okay, she's up. All right. Cool. Yeah, that Francis Ngannou fight. Well, first of all, if it was a Tyson Fury had a bad night, the level of boxer Tyson Fury is, because he is one of the greatest heavyweights that we have seen, not just in our lifetime, but we're going to be talking about Tyson Fury if he comes out to be clean and everything for a long time. A heavyweight that big, that fast, that elusive. He was a lineal champion. Like, I mean, his accolades go on and on and on. Tyson Fury is one of the greatest heavyweights of all time. Francis Ngannou almost beat, you know, I wouldn't call it robbery because I know how the point system goes, but a lot of those rounds were very close. And if you gave those to Ngannou, he would have won the fight. You know what I'm saying? So not saying it was a robbery, it could have gone either way. But so the greatest heavyweight of all time had a bad night and still almost lost to Ngannou on his first boxing fight. That says a lot. That I don't think people are understanding how big of a deal I feel it made. You can make any excuse you want, unless the excuse was that Tyson Fury only had one arm. You know what I'm saying? That's the only valid excuse. Yeah, his hand was broke and his shoulder was broke, and he only had one hand. Okay, but he didn't. He was healthy. He was fine. If you didn't train for it, that's still. I don't believe an untrained bad night Tyson Fury with all the experience and knowledge he has in this boxing would have or should have lost the fight or came close to losing the fight to Francis Ngannou. If Francis Ngannou wasn't, I think that speaks the volumes for how special Francis Ngannou was. And I think Tyson Fury on his worst day will be Anthony Joshua. So let's see what Ngannou does. This is very exciting. I don't think it's going to be one side at all. We know Joshua ain't got a chin like Tyson Fury does, and Ngannou put Fury down. So Yeah, I think I'm gonna pull on Ngannou, and I'm a boxing guy. You know, it almost breaks my heart to say. I think Ngannou's gonna shock the world on this one again.
How about that? Yeah. So I was just about to ask you, are you kind of making a prediction here? You think Ngannou wins this boxing match?
I think, like I said, I think Tyson Fury on his worst day beats Anthony Joshua.
Wow.
And
Okay.
you know, and he barely squeaked by Ngannou on a day that he lasted those rounds and he made it competitive. So again, yeah, I think we're gonna see an upset. And you know, I'm a combat sport guy, so I'm not trying to stay on one side of the road by saying, you know, boxing forever, but you know, it is what it is, and we'll see.
Yeah. That's interesting. All right, cool. Well, you know, we feel pretty good about it too, not just because of the first showing, but because it's just hard to doubt Francis at this point.
Yeah.
He really has always evolved his game, whether it was just being a striker who had poor cardio, then the cardio came, then he developed some ground game. Now he goes over to boxing and hangs tough, and it's just hard to doubt the guy. Plus, he's at the same gym we are in Las Vegas. So,
well, I was gonna say, I know his coach Dewey Cooper, so I know Dewey's gonna get him right. You know what I mean? That's another factor.
Yeah. All right. Well, hey, back to this fight. It's for a title fight. It's coming up soon. Like, have you already been training, or
no? Yeah.
knowing this was already in the works, or was this last minute?
No. I've been, you know, I've had over, you know, like 2 months to get ready. I'm in shape.
Okay.
You know, we're just trying to see how high we can push the intensity for these 10 minutes. You know what I mean? And I honestly, the skill set's it's gonna nullify all that intensity until I feel like it. But in case we have to fight, we can, and we will, and we might do it anyway, just cause.
Thank you for the time as always, Austin. Great chatting with you.
Yeah,
can't wait. This is just a few weeks away, so that's the good thing about a late announcement is now we don't have to wait as long. But thanks.
We ain't wait that long. Yeah, man. Look. I was telling somebody the numbers don't lie. The second month on the second day in 2024, 4 is only 2 times 4. In my second bare-knuckle fight, I'm gonna be a 2-sport, 2-time world champion.
Okay.
I don't know. I think it's written. It's been written already.
Could be. Let's wait and see. Thanks for jumping on the Junkie Radio show, though. We'll talk to you soon.
Man, have a good one.